All right, Benji. Well, welcome into episode 5.
Pumped, man. Pumped.
I feel like every time I introduce the show, I sound like a game show host every time. Like, come on down. Welcome to episode 5. Every time I hear myself back.
I just want to say this. Obviously, we're going to be talking about a really cool topic today. We won't talk about that yet. But I just want to say thank you to the listeners. We've had a lot of interaction. Again, we talked about this. We have more and more people, connecting with us. And our goal is just to inspire people, Adam. And it's really encouraging, the feedback that we're getting. We get people send us DMs through social media or, email or whatever saying, hey, I really connected with that. We'll talk about in a second our last episode, but it's really cool just to see their interaction. So I just wanted to say to everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us. Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. I listened back to myself and I just have to say thank you because I don't understand how y'all listen to me talk for 45 minutes because what was really funny, and this will be a funny story, and I hope this doesn't shatter the glass for our listeners, but when episode 3 came out, my wife and I were driving somewhere and she was like, oh, I need to listen to the episode. I'm like, great. That's what I want to listen to is myself in the car for 45 minutes. She's like, well, I need to catch up on the episode. And I think every other time when I was in between a phrase, my catchphrase to make sure I wasn't catching up on my words, I was like, well, and she slowly just turns her head and looks at me and I'm like, I'm sorry. I've just ruined this episode for you.
Your wife will tell you, or mine too, where we always mess up. And that's okay. Yeah, that's what they're there for. That's what they're there for.
They share it all the time, so I'm excited. Yep. So, but yes, it's been awesome. Had some, owners from other mitigation businesses in our community have reached out and they're wanting to do some of the same stuff, and they're seeing our setup and just like, hey, what equipment are you using? I mean, even though sometimes that's not, they may not be reaching out 100% about what we're talking about. It's just cool that even things like that, our listeners like, hey, I would love to learn how to do something like this. I love the fact that y'all kind of stepped out and did it. So it's been fun. For me, this is out of my comfort zone. So it's been a lot of fun to do this, but enough about us. Let's talk a little bit about you. You've had a lot going on. I know you guys haven't had a fresh episode in 2 weeks. We told y'all we are really trying for every 2 weeks. We'd love to maybe get more of that in, but we said, hey, we're dedicating to you every 2 weeks, so it's coming. So we're trying to keep you guys on some reels coming out, some content, just so y'all can hopefully share, just a couple nuggets. But tell a little bit before we jump into today's topic. You've got some exciting news, some fun news about what's been going on. Why don't you share with our listeners some of that just so they can kind of know what y'all been doing?
Yeah, we actually, after our last episode, we went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the United States we have a our oldest daughter is on a high school softball team. We won our state championship, and we qualified for the national championship. It's called NACA. And it's basically the North American Christian Association. So schools from all over the country will come to this tournament to win a national title. And our boys program at Evangel Christian School has won multiple football, baseball, national championships. The girls had won one volleyball national championship, and they did win a softball Division II national championship back in 2014, I think. Volleyball team was 2013. So we had never had a Division I girls national championship. We go up and our team played exceptionally well. We actually scored 53 runs during the entire tournament. We only gave up 3 runs the entire tournament. That's Defense was solid. Bats was solid. That's awesome. Needless to say, we're very proud of the work that our team did. Yep. And our coach, David Littleton, did a fantastic job with just helping us, put us in a position. I help him, I assist him. So it's really neat. The girls won a Division I national softball championship.
That's awesome. Really cool. Look at that. Really cool. So that'll be exciting. And they gonna get rings and everything too?
We actually just did the ring sizing a few days ago. And I'm actually thinking about getting one myself because I've never had one.
Well, now you can get one. And you can just wear it to work like those people that have them all the time. They just randomly use their hand with it on to point things out. Oh, let me show you what's here. But that'll be good. Well, that's exciting. There's a lot been going on. For us, the kids are about to get out of school.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of fun going on for the summer. So I'm excited to slow down for us if everything slows down. And
so it's the same for us too.
And we'll have to find an episode to talk about just how you handle seasons. But I feel like that's where we've been at lately. I know you and I have talked a little bit of just, just busy, man. It's just, you know what? Balancing your life schedule. That's got to be something we talk about, because I need somebody that can share that with me. Because it's
speaking of life schedules, you're probably the same with your schedules too. But when you go on vacation, you don't want to have a schedule. You don't want to have a task list, stuff like that you normally have in your day-to-day. So for me, Sarah does all of our planning. She's like, hey, we're going to go here. We're going to do this. And here's when we're going to go. I'm like, just tell me when to go and where to be, and I will do it.
Look, we're at a point in our life when we will go on vacation. We don't really go on vacation. We just basically parent in a different city.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got, like I said, I think I've told you guys before, we got a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. And nothing changes, man. Nothing changes. Literally, we deal with the same chaotic fighting duo of nonstop needing more sleep, just in another city. That's all it is. When we went
it will get better, Adam. I promise. It will get better. Just it's a phase of life, stage of life that you're in.
It's such a tough place to be in, because you're like, man, I want to get to that point where it's easier and we're chill, but then, in the middle of the night, our 3-year-old comes and she like snuggles with you and you're like, I don't want this to go away. It's like, so you just get stuck in the middle of a bad place. So hopefully all our listeners, to our parents out there, you're like, I know exactly what he's talking about.
I was going to say, I promise you someone out there can relate to exactly what you're saying.
I'm hoping somebody shares this episode when it comes out and be like, this is me. This is me right here. I don't want my kids to grow up, but it's like, I do want them to grow up. So, hey, let's jump in today. We got a cool topic. Last episode we talked about comparison culture. I shared with you guys that was something that's always been a struggle for me, being a content creator. And just dealing with those. Look, I even dealt with it this past week. I worked on a project for a company that I was jacked about. I was excited. I thought it turned out good. And you got that dreaded email and look, I was just doing this for them, and got that email. They were like, oh, video quality is great. I want to change. Pop, 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 pop. And I'm like, somebody basically just popped my balloon. And so I felt like it continues. So hopefully you guys got something a little bit from that. I know something for me is continued struggle that I go through and deal with. But it was a lot about me and a lot about what I dealt with. I felt like I talked a lot. But this week, in this episode, we're going to get to hear from Benji a little bit more. As the veteran entrepreneur, we were looking at Showtime. I was like, you know what? All the businesses that Benji has faith intertwined in it.
Absolutely.
There is a form of Jesus Christ that is intertwined into every single business that you run. And it doesn't matter if it's your media business, your mitigation business, the other businesses that you have just as investments. There's some type of faith done from start to finish. And I said, you know what? We need to talk about that. We need to talk about entrepreneurship and faith. And then I thought I was cool, and I thought I may have made up a word.
I love this. I love it.
I was trying to be creative, and somebody else beat me to it. But faithpreneurship. Faithpreneurship. Basically, it's just a way to combine the two. It's just, it means in every aspect of your business, faith is present in all the decisions that you make, and all the things that you do. Just all of that. Faith is somewhere in there. And this, to me, is who you and your family have been. And I've experienced that even in the companies that we've been part of with you. Faith is in there. So I said, you know what? Let's talk about that more. Maybe somebody's struggling with that right now. Maybe they're trying to figure out how they should shape and mold their business. And we got some cool things that'll come through, but that we'll talk about today. But that made me just kind of think with you, like, hey, who's running your business? Is it you or is it God?
Yeah.
And I think that's something, and so that's kind of where when I actually watched a reel and heard someone share that, and I was like, Benji, this should be it. Like, what should it be? Yeah. And so we thought this would be good to talk about a little bit more.
Yeah, and before we get into that, I do want to say thank you to our listeners for tuning in, listening. Some of you watch, some of you do listen on the go. We're gaining more audience, folks listen, and our goal was just to inspire people that are just like Adam and myself to be able to live this life journey and You know, at the end of the day, it's exactly what you said. Christ is at the center of everything that we do. This business is not mine and my brother's anyway. Okay, this business is the Lord's business. We just happen to be the stewards of the business, and God runs the business, you know. But I think He gives us the Bible itself tells us that He will give us the desires of our heart. You know, if we ask for them, that doesn't mean He gives them to us the way that we want them, because things change, and that's where faith comes in. So this episode is really gonna hit home with some people, because you know, whether you have faith or whether you don't have faith, you're operating in faith whether you believe it or not. And I'll explain as we talk through more about the show.
Yeah, and I think that's something, I love that you hit that on there, because I understand. You know, we try to make sure that our listeners know who we are, and that we are followers of Jesus, and it's something that we base our life on, our decisions, our families. Yep. I know for me and for you, my kids and your kids are raised that way. But I don't think this is something where if you're like, I'm not really a believer, I'm just going to wait for the next episode. I think you can still find something out of this, because I love the fact that you mentioned being in any type of entrepreneurship, you're putting faith out there, because you're like, all right, I have a skill set, or I have an idea, or I have something, and I think it can be financially prosperous. So so you put that out there. So yeah, for sure. I think a lot of that. And so, I mean, when you and your brother were getting ready to start your business, I mean, I know a lot of that was your dad kind of had already built that, but you guys had to carry that. And even when we walk into our office, it's the first thing that you see. Like, there's scripture on the wall before you walk in. We we do it in all of our meetings, even our large ones. We're very fortunate that we have a team chaplain, which a lot of companies don't have. I think that's something that if one of our employees is walking through something or dealing with something, they have someone they can talk to. So there's presence of that at every turn.
Well, you mentioned that, Adam, that a lot of people, when they go through situations in life, let's say they're not a believer in the Lord, right? They still want prayer. They believe in the power of prayer. So, it's why is faith important in what we do every single day? Hebrews 11:1 says it best. By faith, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So there are certain ways that we do things. There are certain ways that we aspire to do things. We have dreams, we have visions, we have plans. We have to have faith, using the word faith, to get there. Okay. So think about this. If you set a goal to accomplish something, whether it's you want to achieve X type of revenue in your company, whether you want to achieve this specific thing in life, whether you have a dream to do X, Y, Z, whatever the case may be, you're having faith that you're going to be able to get there. Okay. The Lord gives us the vision, His vision, because again, we are faith people. He gives us the vision to be able to want to achieve that item, that thing, but we still have to put in the work for it. Okay, because just because you have faith doesn't mean that you're going to get there. You still have to put forth the work. And I love that, again, Hebrews 11:1. We have to have the faith because we can't see what we can't see. Just because we set a goal, just because we set an aspiration to achieve something, doesn't mean it's the road and the path that we're going to get on.
Yeah.
So just something to think about.
Yeah, and it's such I feel like, especially in today's age, it's such a taboo thing. I mean, you have to be careful with it. And I hate saying that, because I don't want anybody to ever think like, oh, well, you're not a true believer if you feel like you got to be careful with your faith. And I'm like, no, there's things in place that the enemy's put in place that you got to be careful with. And you got to make sure that we're careful with how they do things without losing who you are and your ultimate goal. Like our goal is to bring people to Jesus. Our goal is to I mean, we want people to understand when they see your business, like, hey, we're an ethical business. I understand not everything goes right, and sometimes there's situations that don't happen how they're supposed to. Not everybody's perfect, but I would want a customer to see that and be like, okay. I mean, there's businesses that I've chose to do things with because it's apparent that they're a faith-based business. I mean, from the start. I mean, even from a large scale, from something like a Chick-fil-A, which everybody knows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Everybody knows they're a faith-based company. I mean, closed on Sundays, everything they do is about faith. I mean, they've even taken the point where they're, I don't feel like they get into politics, but they're like, hey, we're going to hold true to who we are. Like, we're not doing this or that. Whereas other companies have caved, they've stated it, but because they've done that, I feel like God has honored that with them because they said they're staying true who they are. But even all the way down to places like just to a mechanic. I mean, if I see something where there's scripture, on an LED sign outside their building, or in their signage, or even sometimes like a gas station just above where you walk in the door, there's little pieces that show. It's almost like saying, hey, we are a faith-based business, and we want you to feel, hey, we're going to be an ethical company, and we're raising up other people to do the same. To understand that we're not here to run games on anyone or do anything, that seems like it's fishy.
Yeah, I do believe the Lord blesses companies like that. I mean, He blesses any company if you put faith into it, right? You got to put forth the work. But I believe the simple principle is do unto others as you would have done unto you, right? If you want to be treated right, you should treat people right.
Yep.
And it's interesting. We were talking about before this episode that what kind of personal experiences I might have had. Okay, so think about this. If you start a business today, this is an interesting statistic that most people don't realize. The average business in America, okay, does between $500,000 in revenue a year to $1 million a year.
I would love to be an average business.
Most businesses don't ever want to achieve more than $1 million. Okay, and here's the reason why. They don't really have to have a marketing budget. They don't really have to hire a lot of personnel. So in their mind, it's less headache, because they're not having as much oversight and stuff. They don't really have to buy as much equipment or supplies or resources, okay? Yep. So if you do $1 million or less in revenue a year, you're making a great living for you and your family. You're probably in about 70% of businesses across America. When you jump from $1 million in revenue to $5 million in revenue, this means you have to have some kind of marketing budget. You need to hire more people, which again comes with, I'm not saying headache, but when you double people issues. It's just the way it works. So $1 million to $5 million. But if we train those people to not have to have issues, we do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Then we can become more successful. If you do between 1 and 5 million, you're in the probably 70 to 80%, which is an additional 10%. Okay, you're in a 10% overall revenue nationwide. If you do above $5 million, you're in like the top 5% because most businesses don't ever want to get to that level. Yeah. So the reason why is a personal experience of mine would be this. Let's say that you start this business and you don't want to go out. What does it take to go hire someone to promote your company? Yeah. You have to have faith that person that you hire is going to bring a return on your investment. Okay? It's the same in operations. Let's say that you want to go out and you have a retail business. Well, if you don't hire anyone to work the counter, you're having to do it yourself, right? So you have to have faith in hiring that person that they're going to bring value to you and the company so that you can have a return on your investment. Yep. So that's how, even though people may not call that faith, that's really what they're operating in. That, man, I'm kind of concerned that I'm not going to be able to, grow this business. What can I do to grow it? Oh, I need to go hire this person. But wait a minute, I don't have any income coming in. How am I going to afford to do that? I hear that all the time from companies. I can't afford to do that. Honestly, you can't afford not to unless you want to do it all yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you're doing all of it yourself, I don't think you're giving yourself room to grow. I mean, we even talked about We even talked about this podcast.
Yep.
It's like, well, where do we want to get to? What's our goals? That's the biggest thing. Like, I don't want to be two guys just taking time away from our wives, sitting here chatting just because it's fun and I enjoy being like, oh, I'm on a podcast. I want,
right.
I want there to be something from this, whether our listeners are affected by it or it helps our listeners, just even a small insight. But, we even talked about that. Like, hey, I want to get to the point where I'm not the one doing the reels and upload, and the simple stuff, uploading the podcast. Like, I want to grow this to a point where hopefully we provide enough value, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
that's what I tell people all the time. Like, well, I need to grow on social media and I need to have more of this. I'm like, oh, well, what value are you presenting? What value are you presenting to them? I mean, even into the point of things like with church social media.
Yeah.
I've had people ask us, and I don't feel like, I just want to make sure I clarify, like, my personal account isn't even over 1,500. And I feel like I've done well with our mitigation.
More than I do.
But that's all come this year because I committed. Now I'll be honest with you, the past month or two, just with the busyness, and then just because Instagram changed the algorithm, it just annoys me to death that I spent all this time into it and you get nothing out of it. Like they have completely destroyed the algorithm. That's for another time. We're gonna have that conversation. But it's just getting to that where I want to be able us to do that, and I don't feel like I'm a master. I mean, if I was a master, you could hand me any account and I could help you grow. But what I do know is things that work. And the first thing that I tell every single person, are you providing value? Or are you like I've had churches ask me, well, how do I help, us grow? And if you look at our church account, like we're just now hitting 600.
Right.
And I feel like we put out, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the one that does it, but I feel like we put out quality.
We really do.
That I try to bring value. Here's the thing. We will not be a bulletin board social media for our church.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not what we are. If you go look at our page, it is very, very rare. And I promise I have a point to all this that I'm getting to. It's very rare that you'll ever find us posting, hey, this is what's happening at the church.
Right.
We're not a bulletin board. And I tell our team that all the time, like, hey guys, that's not what it's for. If you look at social media as a whole, social media it feels like a competition. It feels like it's a negative. Think about, and I don't have true statistics, but that's one of the reasons. I was actually telling your wife the other day, we were talking about social media, and I was like, look, my girls are going to understand that, like, I see parents all the time, like, constantly posting about their kids. And I know we're getting way off subject, but constantly posting about their kids. And I'm like, you know what? That's not for me. Yes, I want to share, like things that I create about our girls and what we're doing. But I hope one day my girls don't grow up thinking just because I posted that's how they know I love them.
Right.
Because I posted 1,000 times what they're doing. My hope is they know that they love them because of the way we do things in the house. So my point is this. I wanted to be able to get to the point where things like we can have other people do our business and do these things, because I feel like that brings value. Absolutely. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get to, is that if you have any type of marketing, what brings value? And not just value, but what are you doing for the people that are consuming your content? And that's why I hope the things that we post, not just from the church, but for our mitigation business. A few weeks ago, and it was probably outside of our Cowboys post, which was super hard. It was awesome. It was fun. That was a cool thing. But outside of that, we posted something that our Birmingham team does every single Friday. And it's cool because it's evolved. Like, it's grown. It used to be they say the Lord's Prayer. Like, I was like, man, I hadn't said the Lord's Prayer since I was like 16, like 15, 16-year-old, like sitting in I grew up military brat. My dad was in the chapel. So it was like, we always said the Lord's Prayer. So they said it. Well, then like 2 Fridays ago, I was there, and our operations manager looks at our fleet director, and he's like, hey, will you pray for us? And it's not a Lord's Prayer anymore. It's evolved. And he tells them before they do it, hey, guys, you don't have to do this. Yeah. You don't have to stay for this. And he makes it very apparent. And there are one or two that may say, hey, this isn't for me. And that's fine. But like 99% of the people walk over. And I can tell you, it's not a pressure thing. I know people listen like, oh, well, you're probably pressuring them. If they don't do it, no, that's not. I can promise you. If you ask anybody in our company, you may if you ask 50 people, you may have one person say, "Oh, I feel like you're always going to have that dividend." But they walk over, they take their hat off, they pray. And we posted about it and maybe it was a personal moment. I just thought it was cool. I wanted our potential consumers and our customers to know this is something we do. And every single Friday, they pray over the team, they pray over the office staff, and they pray over not just the teams that are going into the homes, but of the customers they're serving and potential customers they will serve.
Yeah.
And they do it every Friday.
Yeah.
But they do that because of the culture that you guys created. Because you said, hey, our business is intertwined with faith.
Yeah.
And I feel like faith sometimes is a broad word. It's spirituality. It's belief. It is 100%. There is a faith in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And that's what is intertwined in our business. Yeah,
and like you said, we've chosen to make that the foundation of our business, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, goal setting, decision making, everything that we do, we have by faith, we have a vision to get to X revenue. Yeah. Okay, because we have goals that we'd like to do for our employees, for our family, all those things. And I believe we have to continue to, God gives us tweaks along the way to be able to get there. It's not just going to come overnight. And the same for your business. If you're listening right now, just from maybe you're trying to think about, what do I got to do to take the next step? What do I got to do?
Just do it.
You have to do it. Prayer is a big factor of that. Okay, prayer is a big factor because we can't do it without seeking the Lord for everything that we do. Yeah, and that's very important to us.
And look, I'll tell you, just from being on the opposite end of the spectrum, you're the 30-year veteran doing this for a long time. I'm year one. It was so funny. The other week I was talking to your brother about something, and I made a comment about he was just asking me about the business stuff that I'm doing. And I made a comment like, oh, yeah. He laughed and walked away from me and was like, dude, you have got so much to learn. And so I share that so our listeners understand that I have no earthly idea what I'm doing right now. But I am a $1,500 a month revenue company. Like, I'm just very fortunate to have some friends who believe in me that says, hey, I'll take your skill set and you can help me with my own business. And so I'm very fortunate to be able to do some of that, So, and a couple side jobs here and there that help me bring that type of revenue in monthly. So I'm a very, very small business. I mean, if they're small, I'm fitting that. But it took a lot of prayer to get to this point. I mean, like, I've had people asking me for a year or two, like, when are you going to do it? Even my closest friends, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Like, they tell me all the time, like, I don't want to hear, what you're doing for this person or this company or this person. Like, what's Adam West doing? And when are you building your brand? And it took a lot of faith and a lot of praying to say, do I need to do this? And is this something I need to do? And, and it's also treating it like like I need to treat our business like a person. Like, I need to be able to take that money that we're earning and tie that back every month as a business. Just like any church. I feel like even churches, that's important, that churches need to teach giving by also giving themselves. I mean, if they bring in X amount of money a month, they need to give out 10% of that, if not more, if they can, because that shows good faith to the people that are part of your church that says, hey, we teach giving, but we also act on it and we also live it.
Well, you know what's interesting, you say that, and because the Bible, there are non-believers who give to missions or they give to charities, because the Bible does say, bring you all the tithes into the storehouse and I'll open you up the windows of heaven. Now, I'm paraphrasing the verse, but the principle is true. You cannot outgive God, okay?
Nope.
Well, you said it earlier. It's not cliche-ish, the term that you could use. Some people say, hey, take a step of faith. Well, what they're really saying is, you believe that you can achieve this. You believe that you're going to get there. Faith just happens to be the word that's going to help you. Okay?
Yep.
I'll give you an example. In the Bible, if you were to look back in history, years and years and years ago, the earth had never been flooded. Okay? So there's this gentleman on the face of the earth called Noah. And Noah, the Lord told him to build an ark. Now, I don't have the dimensions, but again, massive, massive structure that he had to build, this ark. And the Lord told him to put 2 of every animal, 1 male, 1 female, on this boat. Is essentially that's what the ark is, a boat. And he built this massive structure. He sat there. People were laughing at him. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you building that? Why are you building that? This world's not going to flood. This is not going to happen. This is not going to work. And all of a sudden, here comes the rains. Here comes the rains. His boat starts to take off. All the naysayers, you know what happens to them. They obviously drowned, and the world starts over, okay? So Noah had to take a step of faith to build this massive, massive ark that nothing had ever happened on this earth in this world before. And he took the step of faith to say that I'm going to be prepared, even though I can't see the full outcome of what's about to come. I'm going to be prepared so that my family's taken care of, because this is what the Lord has told me to do. So he built it. His family was safe. After the floods receded, the Lord put this rainbow in the air and basically made a promise he would never flood the earth again. A dove ascends out of heaven, which is a relationship of the Holy Spirit. It says, I'm in control. I've got you. I'm going to take care of your family. So with that being said, that's one of the reasons why we have put this foundation of faith into us, because it's who we are, it's what we believe, and it's where we want to see our business be successful. Do we want to continue to grow? Absolutely. Do we want to continue to try to be successful? Absolutely. So what we have to do is we have to take a step of faith to continue to get there. Even though there's going to be pain along the way, there's going to be trials along the way, things are going to come up that are out of our control. Faith is what's going to help us get there. Prayer, that type of thing.
So, I mean, for our listeners, maybe they're struggling with that, and maybe that's something where they're trying to figure out where they're at with their faith in their business, like how that balance works. So for you guys, you talked about pain. What's something that you guys have gone through? And I don't feel like you guys have ever been in a position to wonder if that's how you should be leading the company. But I mean, share just for our listeners, what are some things that you and your brother have dealt with when it comes to faith?
Yep.
That have, and outside of like, and I'm talking like outside of, are we going to make enough this month? Are we going to bring enough? Do we need to but what are some things that you guys have walked through that might help somebody that's listening, saying, hey, let me share with you something that was tough and put my faith to the test.
I'll give you, I got a great example of that. 2017, our father, me and my brother, he passed away. And we had a decision to make at that point. Are we going to continue the legacy of what he had built and try to use faith to take us to the next level? Or do we throw in the towel and go do something else? Well, number 2 was not an option. We knew that this business was built on faith, the foundation was built on faith. So we only had one option, and that was to continue moving forward. Now, we wanted to, I'll never forget, Adam, when we came back from Houston, Texas, we were on the way home, and our wives both said, hey, what is the next step? And we told them then, we're going to continue the legacy. We believe that, even though it hurt that our father passed this earth, we'll see him one day again in heaven. And on our way back here, we said, you know what? They're because of prayer, because of the people around us, which is something we'll talk about in a minute. Surround yourself with people who can encourage you, who can lift you up, who can be there for you, who can slap you and say, hey, that was a mistake you made. You need to get better. That's the people we want to surround ourselves with, right?
Yeah.
Because we all make each other better. We were on the way back, and we said, you know what? There's not another option. We're going to continue this because the Lord's in control of this business, not us. If we were in control, it would be a disaster.
Yeah.
So we've chosen to use that to our advantage to say, Lord, you're in control, you've got it, and that's all that we can rely on.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because our pastor talked about a few weeks ago where he shared, he really wasn't sharing his testimony. He was just talking about how one decision can affect others and others. And, he talked about that he would love to go down the line where the guy that introduced him to Jesus, and it was a scenario, and then introduced his dad, and who introduced that pastor that influenced his dad and did. So you start thinking like, oh man, well, where's that line start? But I think that also goes into those of you that are listening that may be trying to figure out how to balance your faith in whatever type of entrepreneurship that you're in. Those decisions have ripple effects.
Yeah.
And it's the butterfly effect. I mean, a flap of butterfly wings on this side of the world could create a tidal wave on the other. And I don't want the tidal wave to make it sound like it's a negative thing.
Yeah, sure.
But there's a lot of lives that you have affected by making that choice that was faith-based. In that moment, it's made a ripple effect. And not just that, but it's made a ripple effect in our own restoration world, because you chose to do that. We've been in the top 5 for a number of years, in the top 10, top 20. And so you not only that, but you're affecting other owners and other entrepreneurs that are now like, all right, teach me. How do I do this? How do I steer this boat that I have of my company down this canal? And how do I get down this journey? So those decisions, by deciding to say, hey, we're going to stick to our faith, we're going to hold tight, it's making ripple effects, and not with thousands of people.
Absolutely.
I heard someone say one time, and I've always said that, when the day comes and my dad passes, like, I'm going to share this because I heard it in his retirement, and they said, somebody told him one time that you couldn't fill 10 chapels with the amount of people that he affected while he was a chaplain in the military. And it's crazy to me that you think about that. They're saying like, hey, you can't fill 10 chapels. It's not enough. Like it would be tens of thousands of buildings from the people that you've ripple affected and changed by doing those. So by you guys having that faith, it's helped ripple through those lives and through other people.
Yeah, and to your point, you're always going to have struggles. I mean, there's anything you do in life, it's called life. You're going to have struggles, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have challenges. There's going to be things, you're going to take 10 steps forward and 3 steps back, 10 steps forward, 6 steps back, 10 steps forward, and then 1 step back. You're going to have that happen. But here's the thing. Don't let it discourage you, because sometimes I think the Lord tests us in certain ways to figure out. I heard it say, we had our pastor shared this past week. He said, you can't have a testimony without a test. Really strong statement. You can't have a testimony without a test.
I need to go back and find that for a reel, by the way. I'm glad you said that.
It's hey, it'll help your social media engagement.
Value.
It's true, because you think about that. You go through a life situation so that you can share it with someone else. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we're not going to have tests along the way. I believe that the reason that we continue to push forward, we don't let those setbacks affect what we do. We don't let the competition dictate how we do things. Now, it doesn't mean we don't make tweaks to our process either, because that's important in business. You have to make tweaks in your process to stay ahead of the curve. There's always, even though you might be the number one mitigation company in the world, somebody behind you is looking at that target, because we were there one day. And we don't want to lose sight of that. We want to always stay ahead of the curve. So again, you're going to have things come across the way. If I could give any kind of success story, there's a buddy of mine in the mitigation business, and he's always being innovative in everything that he does. Always being innovative. He doesn't go out and just, hire all these people out here to do this job. He thinks through the process. He comes up with a strategy. He executes it almost to perfection. But he will tell you, if it wasn't for his faith in the Lord, he wouldn't be able to do it. And that's why I think that the Lord uses that to challenge us, to test us.
Yep.
But how we act on our faith is what our response ends up being. And ultimately, he wins. It's his anyway. I mean, so we can't lose.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important to always remember that it's not ours.
Yeah.
It's not ours. And that's why, I told you before, who's running your business? Are you running the business, or is God running your business? Because you're going to go through a lot of that, and you're going to deal with those moments where you've got to figure out, all right, these decisions am I making? Is this a spiritual, biblical choice?
Right.
Like, am I making this choice because it's good for me. And look, sometimes those choices are not financially good. I mean, sometimes you are probably gonna have to take the road less traveled, and it's not gonna be lucrative at all. But my thing is that I always want to make sure in everything I do, whether that's with for you guys as a company or for my own self, I never want to lose my soul to move up or to move up, because I think that all comes back.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not a karma person. I don't feel like karma is spiritual. I'm not, and I just don't. To me, I'm not like, I believe that you do good things and good things come back to you. I think God blesses those things. But my point is that I want to make sure that everything that I have or I've gained, whether that's influence, whether that's finance, whether that's favor, I want to make sure every bit of that I have is not something that I got from doing things that aren't made without involving God.
Right.
In all my decisions, that all the things that I do, I don't ever want, like, if I know I can get away with something and you're like, I could easily, I had this conversation with your brother today. We were sitting there talking about it. And, I said, look, we got to, like, something's got to happen from this. Like, we can't just allow this to happen. And he said, Adam, look, he said, I'm going to tell you as a business owner, it's always going to happen. Yep. There's no matter what I do, it's going to happen. You're going to have people that treat situations like this. You're going to have people who are dishonest. You're going to have people that do things to get ahead by cheating the system. But you know what? He said, it's not really going to affect how I lead this company. And he said, because I believe that those things will all come back. And if you choose to get ahead, maybe you do. Yeah. Maybe you get ahead. Maybe you make a couple extra bucks. Maybe you do something where, you take something that's not really yours, or, you, whatever it is, maybe you do gain what you want. But in the end of the day, I mean, what are you fulfilling?
I was going to say, what have you gained?
What are you honestly gaining? Think about it. Did you work for it? Did you do? That's what I tell people all the time now. They're just like, it's one of the things they talk about with, like, the portal and stuff with sports. So like, people don't want to sit behind anybody anymore. And I mean, you look at some of the greatest people, they want to jump teams or go here or go there. And I know that's way off topic. Yeah. I'm just talking about culture wise. We've gotten to it. And whether that's business, sports, whatever, it's a point in our lives where people are like, if there's something I want, I'm just going to figure out how to get it. I'm not going to work for it, but I'm just going to figure out how I can get it the easiest way possible.
Yeah, I think sometimes with that, people don't. I don't mean to be cliché with this, but they don't really think that they can get there. They don't think they have the faith to overcome that obstacle. So it's like, you know what? The grass is greener over here. I'm just going to go that way.
Yeah. And really you talk about cliche, and I think about it all the time. And this is going to sound stupid, and people are probably going to laugh when they hear it, but how are diamonds made? It's made through pressure. And that's what I tell people all the time. I'd rather be in a pressure cooker than just have it easy. Because, look, and this is for y'all listening right now, if you hadn't had anything going on in your life and you have no stress, you have no anxiety, nothing feels like you're pressuring you, you need to really evaluate how you're living.
Check it.
You need to take them out. You need to check, like John Chris says, you need to check your heart, man.
Yeah.
You need to check your heart and figure it out, because if your life and if your business is easy, if your life is easy, if everything you're doing just like, man, like, life is good, like, everything's fine. If that's your answer to something, you're missing something. And you know what? The enemy's happy with it because you're just coasting.
Yeah.
And you're living a life where you're not trying to do anything, and you're not trying to, because I always tell people all the time, I get better by having pressure. And it's by doing things that make me uncomfortable. And when I do things that make me uncomfortable, that's when I grow, because I got to push out of it eventually.
Yeah. Yep. And look, if you're out there listening too, as we kind of summarize this and wrap it up, if you're struggling with something, man, email us. You can email Benji at higheruppodcast.com. We'll be glad to take your questions on DMs through our social media channels. Again, if you go to higheruppodcast.com, you've got all the social links there. You've got any platform you want to listen to, including YouTube if you want to watch. But we'd love to get some feedback. Hey, I'm struggling with this and this and this. What can you guys do? Give me some advice. We'd love that opportunity. And whatever we can do to help and inspire, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, just so our listeners know, Benji and I are the only ones that maintain that. Look, everything you see, everything you hear, that's done by the two of us. Nobody else does that. Nobody else handles that. Nobody else assists with that. So just know anything you send in is going to be between us. And then, like show topics.
Yeah.
If there's something that you're hearing this and you want us to discuss more, if you trust the two of us to talk about a topic, all you got to do is shoot it to us, and we want you to know that that's something we'll throw in there, and we'll do that. But hey, take a moment and let us know, even in the reviews, like let us know what you think about the show. We'll take some moment and read those on live for some folks on the next one, just to say thank you to you guys. But yeah, like Benji said, just let us know.
Yeah, and by the way, if you really want some additional encouragement, go read Hebrews chapter 11. It's called the Faith chapter. And that will give you some great insight of some stories that people have gone through in previous history and how the Lord got them out of it. And maybe one of those can inspire you. So thank you guys so much.
It's a good word, man. It's a good way to end it. Good episode. We hope y'all have enjoyed it. We'll see you guys back here soon. But y'all have a great week and continue to live yourself a higher life. Hey, Benji and I want to take a moment and just thank you for listening to the Higher Up Podcast. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode and just learn some valuable insights to help improve your own life. Hey, if you found today's episode helpful, we would be grateful if you could take a moment and rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we just want to know what you think about the show. Either way, when you leave us a review, you're helping us grow our network and reach more people with our message. Remember, our mission is to empower you in every aspect of your life, and we're thankful for your support. We've got new episodes of the Higher Up Podcast dropping every other Thursday, so take a second and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Make sure that you follow us on your favorite social media platforms to stay connected with our community. We just want to thank you again for listening, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Higher Up Podcast.